Camo grinding is ruining zombies, and in this video I want to explain just how that happens, because at face value rewards are a good thing, right? More content means more incentive to play, and to be fair, Treyarch have been cooking with Mastery Camos in zombies in recent years. So just how has this ruined zombies exactly? Statistics are incredibly important to Activision because they effectively reflect where the money is. Activision want to turn over the most profit, and so they use these statistics to effectively tell Treyarch and all of the other COD devs what to do to get the most out of the players. They've used this information to basically govern the future of Call of Duty and thus the future of COD Zombies for the longest time now. And according to Kevin Drew himself, the director of Zombies, what these analytics have shown is that the most played map of all time in Zombies is Liberty Falls.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now look, I'm not dissing Liberty Falls exactly. Like, to be fair, there are things to love about that map. I like the fact it was the most streamlined and straightforward Zombies map in Black Ops 6, but the most played of all time, in the eyes of Activision, that kind of deems it the best map of all time. And that's just fucking scary. I mean, sure, yes, there's going to be a lot of people that appreciated the simplistic playstyle and the fact that Liberty Falls doesn't have like a super long setup, but ultimately, let's not distract ourselves from the real reason why Liberty Falls was as successful as it was. It's unquestionably camo grinding. Now, I'm a hypocrite here because I'm part of this. I use Liberty Falls to camo grind just as much as everyone else. In fact, I even made a comprehensive guide to get Nebula. But this has had a snowball effect in bringing a new problem to the table. Completely inaccurate statistics. So because Activision love to track what does well and what doesn't, the fact that so many people were using Liberty Falls to camo grind has made the map one of the most successful Zombies maps in history. And these statistics completely fail to account for how much the map is played once the grind is completed. And also the fact that there's a ton of inaccurate metrics coming in from multiplayer players that are using Liberty Falls as a camo grind as well, because let's not forget, a lot of the multiplayer fan base, especially the content creators, love to get all of the camos in the game. And so those people, of course, would just pick the easiest map in the game to get all of the unlocks. And on top of that, there's also the massive glitching community to account for, because Liberty Falls had a ton of exploits that were effectively AFK XP glitches that a lot of the multiplayer community would have adopted as well to try and get through the ranks and get to Prestige Master as fast as possible. And just as Treyarch would eventually patch these glitches, a new alternate version would come out, and so the cycle repeats. It was also used a lot to cheese a lot of the limited time event rewards as well. In essence, Liberty Falls was a camo grind exploit fest that housed players from all scopes of the COD sphere that heavily inflated the numbers and didn't accurately represent the amount of players who actually enjoyed the map at face value. Now again, I'm sure there's many people who actually enjoyed Liberty Falls as a map, and if you're one of those people, I completely respect that. But ultimately, these analytics are sending Activision and Treyarch the completely wrong signal. Because what does it tell them? It tells them that we want more maps like Liberty Falls. Granted, the simplicity is cool and all, but it didn't have really any soul. It was barely zombified in any capacity, and it lacked any real depth or any of the really cool features we expect to see in Zombies maps that were actually really well exhibited by maps like Terminus. The stats just simply send the completely wrong message. They completely fail to reflect the thoughts of Zombies players, because let's also not forget that a lot of the multiplayer fan base that were using Liberty Falls to grind camos or exploit XP or whatever the case may be, they would use Liberty Falls for that purpose and then dip off. They didn't stay on Zombies. So there's a massive percentage of these analytics that are not representative of the Zombies community whatsoever. And if it proved anything, it's that people want the rewards that Treyarch put out, but with none of the work. It's all about that dopamine hit that comes from unlocking your next camo, reaching Prestige Master, and having all of the unlocks available as soon as possible. And then, what happens when you've earned everything? Well, you start to play the game, right? You've done it all, you've unlocked everything, now it's time to properly enjoy the game. And then you realize the game itself is lacking badly. You've just spent all of your time completely blinded by a grind, buying skins for guns that you know work well when you haven't actually assessed if the game beneath it all is actually any good. And it sounds like I'm speaking from experience here, because I am, and this is a nice segue into my next point. So we've touched on how these analytics have kind of proven that the dopamine of earning and unlocking everything is kind of what's carried the success of Liberty Falls. And so now let's assess how that's affected gameplay, because it actually has, and it dates long before Liberty Falls here. But effectively, ever since Cold War, gameplay features have been kind of built to accommodate a level of satisfaction. Unlike games we've seen in the past in which the Easter eggs were a lot harder to figure out and the grind to unlock certain things was not really at the forefront of the gameplay. Because back in the day, progression in Zombies was more of an in-match focus, like you would spawn in with effectively nothing and build your way up to get stronger and stronger throughout that game, whereas modern Call of Duty experiences with Zombies have kind of flipped it inside out and made progression more of an external thing. You know, you earn augments for your perks that you get in the games that you play in the future. You earn unlocks for the guns and the loadouts that you spawn in with right from round one. And you also earn buffs for things like your field upgrades, which you also have right from the beginning. Effectively, all of the work you put into Zombies now gives you an exponential increase in power. Whereas back in the day, everyone would start at the same point. You'd be back at ground zero and build your way up with each map that you play. As a result, with these new mechanics, survival has become easier, and it's also kind of just been built to facilitate that grind to unlock the camos and unlock the challenges, and again give you that dopamine of feeling like you're progressing and earning as many things as possible, as what feels like almost a distraction from the actual core gameplay of the content you're playing. I mean, this is why things are just so much easier now than they ever have been. But let's take Black Ops 3 as an example, right? Because this is a game in which this kind of thing started. Now, contrary to Black Ops 6, at least in my opinion, if you were to take both these games at the value of grinding first and playing later, with Black Ops 6, in my personal experience, once I've grinded everything out, I became Prestige Master, I got the Zombies 100% a calling card, I got my Nebula camo and all of that stuff, and then I thought, okay, now it's time to play the game. I barely played any of it anymore because I didn't think that the actual core content of the Zombies maps I was playing were really that good. And so I kind of scuttled back to the past and played the classic Zombies that I personally prefer. Whereas with Black Ops 3, that game also had challenges. It also had camos. It also had a prestige system. But with that game, once the grind was over, the game itself and the maps within it still felt infinitely replayable. It's clear that Black Ops 3 still had a focus on atmosphere, satisfying gameplay mechanics, and most importantly, in my opinion, a unique distinction between Zombies and the other modes. Whereas nowadays, that line is kind of blurred. We see a lot of multiplayer and Warzone mechanics come into Zombies now, and a large part of that is that Activision is definitely trying to merge the separated groups between multiplayer and Zombies. And I'm just going to say it straight. You're never going to be able to actually convert Zombies players into die-hard multiplayer fans, just the same way as you will not be able to convert die-hard multiplayer fans into Zombies fanatics. It just doesn't work. These modes at their core are supposed to be uniquely distinct and separate from one another. I mean, that was the whole thing with the advertising that Treyarch used to do on the older games like Black Ops 1. It felt like you were getting 3 games on one disc when it came to campaign, multiplayer, and Zombies. But now, with this line blurred, it just makes the Zombies experience not as good as it could be, plain and simple. Whereas again, with Black Ops 3, Zombies felt like its own game entirely. From the heads-up display, to the weapons that were available, to the aesthetics, the environments, the time periods, literally everything. It all felt completely different. And again, dialing back, Black Ops 3 also had that in-match progression as the focus. You still spawned in with a starting pistol, you had to fight your way to a weapon that maybe you did want to earn some unlocks for, but it didn't feel like the game was pushing you to prioritize the unlocks for the guns that you're using. If I were to rephrase it, I'd say in Black Ops 3, earning the camos and earning the attachments for your guns felt like a fun bonus. It didn't feel like the core principle on which the gameplay was built around. It was still Zombies at heart with the formula that we knew and that we loved, but with the added bonus of some fun unlocks and personalization. Whereas nowadays, it feels like the opposite. It feels like it's all built around the grind, instead of the grind being built around the gameplay. This is backed by the fact that the loadout, points, PAP, and rarity systems in modern COD Zombies pushes players to choose and stick with one weapon for their matches, which of course, again, incentivizes a grind for that weapon. Not to mention, it's also kind of for microtransaction purposes, because of course, you'd want to buy a skin for a gun you can spawn in with, right? Which, to be fair, you could say is not a bad thing, but when you consider it's all used to drive up profits, to drive up the amount of skins that you buy, because maybe the new meta has changed. They've nerfed a certain shotgun that you bought a skin for, and now there's a new sniper rifle. That's the meta in zombies. And so you grind that sniper rifle and then you earn the attachments for that. And then you think, oh, this is the new meta. Let me go ahead and buy a skin so the gun looks better, or whatever it may be. This is the loop that Activision have been banking on. And the craziest part is it's worked. This has ultimately worked, and the statistics prove it. Well, taking a step back, you could say that I've been overly critical, maybe a little harsh, you could say, with the way that I've assessed how camo grinding has impacted zombies. But the reality is this. The statistics suggest that Treyarch should actually just keep doing what they're doing. Ultimately, nothing should really change if the stats say it's being played and Activision are making their money. And that is effectively what is happening. This is why Black Ops 7 is following a very similar path to Black Ops 6. And this is also why Zombies just isn't returning back to the old days. Because at the end of the day, Activision are making more money than they ever have the way Zombies is now. So this is the path Zombies will stay on. And of course, I'm very curious to see how Cursed mode plays into this. With more time that's gone by, we've started to learn that this isn't exactly a classic mode at face value. So maybe it will be good for classic fans. Maybe it will just be kind of more content for fans of the new way of Zombies. But either way, the future of Zombies remains with the same core premise. And that's that the focus is on facilitating as many unlocks and cosmetic items as possible and delivering it in the most gratifying way to players as possible. And if that's not your style, then modern Zombies just simply isn't for you. And yes, I'm also talking to myself when I say that. So bit of a heartbreaker, but that's the way it is. And that concludes this video, lads, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have I gone a little too heavy with this, or do you completely agree? But subscribe if you're new. Much love, stay blessed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.